If you were to ask me, I'd say that Joe Biden is intentionally sabotaging Kamala Harris because he's salty about being forced out of the presidency. Now, I don't know for sure. The media is just saying, oh, it's old fumbling, bumbling Joe. You see, my friends, just the other day, as we were in the midst of this terrifying news cycle about how Donald Trump himself called Puerto Rico garbage, he didn't, by the way, but that's certainly the narrative they're pushing. The story is that Tony Hinchcliffe, a comedian, made a joke about Puerto Rico, saying it was a floating island of garbage. It was a joke. Of course, he doesn't literally think that, but the media is going to pretend otherwise. Joe Biden issued a comment. He said, the only garbage I see are his supporters. Yeah, wow, everybody was pissed. Joe Biden just pulled a basket of deplorables meme. Only worse, he called all of Trump supporters garbage. Incredible. Well, the Democrats are in panic mode, desperately trying to backtrack here. And what they've done is quite incredible. They've added, my friends, an apostrophe to the word supporters, as if to imply it was a run-on sentence, and he was meaning to say his supporters, his demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That would make no sense as a sentence. So they're going for the Joe Biden's brain is jello argument instead of Joe Biden called Trump supporters garbage. Now, there's a reason why I say he's intentionally sabotaging Kamala Harris, because he had no reason to say this. It could just be that in his old age, his filter has gone and he doesn't care quite much anymore. The statements that we're seeing in response to this story are him basically just, it's his staff. It's the White House. They're like, fix this, clean this up. Best part. Official White House records added an apostrophe, and it's an obvious lie. What Joe Biden said, if you add an apostrophe, I know it's so stupid, isn't it? Like, what are you even talking about? But if you were to change the punctuation, turns what he said into a nonsense run-on sentence that makes no sense. It's just a sentence fragment. But if you take what he said and the way he said it literally, he said Trump supporters are garbage. Wow. So we're 5 days away from an election? I say 5 because election day. So we got until Monday, and then election day starts Tuesday. And the election conclusion, who knows? No idea. But of course, in the polls, Donald Trump is still way ahead. The prediction markets have Donald Trump way ahead. He's winning the battleground states, which is kind of crazy. He's winning the national popular vote in the polls by 0.4, which is nuts. Nate Silver says he's going to win. And ladies and gentlemen, we talked about this last night. In Oregon, Republicans have returned. In Portland, Republicans have returned more ballots than Democrats. What this means, I don't know. Kamala Harris is pulling her ads from North Carolina, $2 million in ad spends. So this is indicative of, she is not doing too well in these swing states. But all I can say is, as we get into this story, as we get into the news, y'all need to go vote. I don't care. I'll say it. I'm going to say it a million times. If you're in a blue state, deep blue, go vote. If you're in a deep red state, go vote. If you're in a swing state, you better go vote. But everyone's got to vote because Trump needs to win the national popular vote. Of course, winning the election seals the deal, but the cultural victory that we have been begging for to rebuke the woke insanity is a popular vote victory. I don't know if we get there. I'm just saying I'd like to see it. I know you would too. Well, let's start with the New York Times. I love the desperation that we are seeing. Of course, I'll play you the full clip of what Joe Biden said, and I'll break down for you inflection so you can understand. There ain't no apostrophe here. Here's the New York Times. Biden appears to insult Trump supporters as garbage, but quickly tries to clarify. In a posting on social media, President Biden said he was talking about racist language, not Trump supporters. Yeah, no, he was. And no one believes that post on social media was actually Joe Biden. President Biden on Tuesday denounced racist language at former President Donald Trump's recent rally, but appeared to insult Trump supporters as garbage, prompting waves of criticism from Republicans. The White House quickly objected to that interpretation of the president's remarks, arguing that he was instead describing the racist language as garbage and not Trump supporters. That's not true. The comments came as Biden was addressing Latino supporters by video. Just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage, Mr. Biden said, referring to Tony Hinchcliffe, a comedian and Trump supporter who spoke at the rally at Madison Square Garden on Sunday. Mr. Biden said Puerto Ricans are good, decent, honorable people. Then he went on, the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable and it's un-American. In what way could you add a possessive to that? That's what they're trying to do. For those that are, it's such a, when I first heard they added an apostrophe, the official transcript, the White House released a transcript that showed Mr. Biden was saying his supporters' demonization, meaning that Hinchcliffe's demonization was garbage. No, it wasn't, because otherwise that sentence makes literally no sense. The only garbage I see floating out there are his supporters, his demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That, wait, what? No. Understand. And I know you guys know basic grammar. If you were to say, the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters, period. As a sentence, that makes sense. If you were to say the only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters' demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, that's called a run-on sentence, and it makes no sense. They're trying to spin this because they know most Democrats and people who are leaning Democrat do not watch the videos, do not read the news. They look at the headlines. And the example, my friends, of course, comes from the great Brennan Strzok, who pointed out that when he was a Democrat, that's exactly how he saw things. And then when he tried to debunk a conservative and actually watched the video, he was shocked to discover the media had lied. Now, my friends, I'm going to show you this clip. Before we do, make sure you guys check out castbrew.com and buy our coffee. Buy our coffee because it's great coffee. It supports the show, and we sponsor ourselves. But I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to let you in on a secret. We got a new song coming out. Go to hungerinside.com. There is a phrase in the song that if you find that phrase, all caps, no punctuation, you will get 20% off your Cast Brew coffee. So I'm just saying. Now, here's how NPR phrases it. Biden's garbage remarks give Trump and GOP new fodder on the trail. How about you just write, Joe Biden calls Trump supporters garbage, because this is what we call the Democrat media industrial complex. Here we go. Here's a video of Trump. Let me do we do have the clip right here. Let me play the clip for you.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, and it's un-American.
Can we all just recognize we are not stupid and we understand inflection? Let me play it again for you.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable.
Those are two separate sentences. You can't put them together. It would make no sense. But let me explain inflection to you guys. I know most of you probably know this. Bear with me, but I think it's worth putting in this context. Y'all know me. I used to do nonprofit fundraising, and there was one thing they always train you on in sales: avoid upward inflection, because it insinuates your idea is not complete. That is when you say something like, "The only garbage I see out here is his supporters, his demonization." You see, aha. If you have an upward inflection, it implies your sentence is not complete. But you can hear what Joe Biden said. The only garbage I'd see out here is his supporters. That's called downward inflection. It implies through the tone that your sentence is complete. Most people know this. Maybe you've not been conscious of it, but that's why people don't like it when someone speaks with an upward inflection, where they talk like this all the time, like maybe it's a question or they're not done speaking. It's going up, upward inflection. That is a complete sentence right there. You ain't fooling me, brother.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Supporters. Downward inflection, implying the idea was complete. Now, here's the best part, the crime that they committed. I love this. Michael Schellenberger says, the Presidential Records Act prohibits altering official transcripts, which is what the White House did. And the alteration makes no sense. The White House is now claiming Biden was referring to the racism of Trump's supporters, but the transcript refers to his supporters, possessive. And you can see here they added the apostrophe. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. Huh? What does that even mean? His supporters, his demonization? Look. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable is a complete sentence. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters is a complete sentence. This is incredible manipulation. They're going to say later, Biden attempted to clean up the remarks on X.com, saying that he was referring to the comedian's jokes at a rally. Here's the tweet that he posted. And let's be real. Ain't no way Joe Biden posted this. We're not morons. Maybe this will work on, people who have no idea how the internet works, but it's not working on smart people. Earlier today, I referred to the hateful rhetoric about Puerto Rico spewed by Trump's supporter at his Madison Square Garden rally as garbage. which is the only word I can think of to describe it. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That's all I meant to say. The comment at the rally don't reflect who we are as a nation. Heavens me. Is this guy trying to intentionally sabotage Kamala Harris? I mean, that's my thesis, right? Joe Biden gets ousted. He's pissed off at everybody. Apparently now there's like Biden campaign staff that worked with Biden. Jack Posobiec had this tweet where they're saying, Biden's been ranting that the Democrats are suckers, that he would have done way better against Donald Trump than Kamala Harris is. Kamala Harris has nothing going for her. Maybe. I think they're both really bad.
Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable.
Yep. And here's the funny thing. Trump never disparaged Latinos. Now, you see what Joe Biden was trying to do here additionally? It's not just that he's trying to reframe this because he insulted Trump supporters as garbage. He's trying to reframe this as Trump called Latinos. Okay, guys. First of all, it was a joke about Puerto Rico. Secondly, it wasn't about all Latinos. Okay, that's the game they're playing. NPR says what Biden's gaffe means for Harris. Gaffe? You see what they do here? How about his insult? Biden, who has a lifelong history of gaffes, has kept a low profile since he dropped out of the race and endorsed Harris. Last week at a rare campaign event, he attracted attention when he said of Trump, "We've got to lock him up," before quickly adding, "politically." Also doesn't make sense. It makes lock him up politically. What? That's what you're doing. It's political lawfare to put Trump in prison. Adding politically changes nothing. Conservatives have long complained that Democrats have used disparaging labels to describe their supporters. They point to when Barack Obama remarks about bitter working class voters who cling to guns or religion, and former Democratic nominee who called Trump supporters deplorables. That's right. Biden's remarks landed as Trump was on stage at a rally in Allentown. "We are not garbage. We are patriots," said Marco Rubio. Well, in fact, my friends, I actually have the video of Trump's real-time reaction upon hearing that Joe Biden called his supporters garbage. Mind you, at a rally recently, Donald Trump said, we're nearing the end. It's all coming to a close. And I just want to say, I love all of you. Something to that effect. Trump, I really do believe, genuinely loves the crowds cheering for him. And that's what he lives for. He wants to be that rock star guy on stage. This is the real-time reaction to learning that Biden called him garbage. Trump shaking his head no.
He's talking about the Border Patrol. He's talking about nurses. He's talking about teachers. He's talking about everyday Americans who love their country and want to dream big again and support you, Mr. President. And I hope their campaign is about to apologize for what Joe Biden just said. We are not garbage. We are patriots who love America.
Yeah, no, they didn't apologize. They just pretended that he didn't actually say it. I love this one. Biden may have handed Trump a big assist with his garbage gaffe. It's not a gaffe. It's remarkable. His gaffe. Are you kidding me? It's just, how about insult? How about insult? Okay. But this is why I keep saying I think he's sabotaging Kamala Harris. Look, the media was stomping around like maniacs because Tony Hinchcliffe made a joke. Shout out to Tony Hinchcliffe. He's hilarious. His jokes were good. To be fair, I was on Piers Morgan the other day with Nina Turner, and she said, people at roasts are primed for this kind of comedy. They know what to expect. People at political rallies are not, so that's probably why it didn't hit. And I agree. Maybe a roast comic at a political rally doesn't quite work. But Tony's so popular right now that they were like, this is a guy who sold out Madison Square Garden twice. We got to bring him in. And his jokes were actually fairly tame. I thought they were funny. They're jokes. George Carlin was way more, let's just call him eccentric. But shut it. I thought it was great. They were going nuts, saying Trump is a racist and this was vile racism. I love my favorite bit is it is so shocking that we cannot play the joke for you. Who was it? Cassie Hunt on CNN. She's like, it's X-rated. I can't even play it. Are you kidding? He said, there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of people don't know this is a giant floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean. I think it's called Puerto Rico. That was the joke. Okay. Call it crass, call it crude, whatever. It's not X-rated. It's not even PG-13. But you've got MSNBC and CNN hosts being like, it was so shockingly offensive and X-rated. We can't even say it to you. That's a lie. Because what they're actually trying to do is convince people that it was substantially worse than it really was. CNN knows that if they come out and say, here's the joke, people are going to be like, is that it? That ain't a big deal at all. I don't really care. But to truth be told, it does seem like it's a big assist for Donald Trump. And call it whatever you want. Let's break down the math of the issue. Democrats were playing up Tony Hinchcliffe, trying to earn points and demonize Trump. And now the narrative has been completely flipped. The cycle was stopped, all thanks to good old Joey B. You know, Joe Biden has been begging to campaign for Harris, and they won't let him. Apparently, they ignore him. They're doing no events together because they know he's going to sink her. And he is. You know, Seamus over at Freedom Tunes has a joke video about Biden sabotaging Kamala Harris, and I believe it. I think Joe is salty, and he's doing this stuff on purpose. He wants to go to Pittsburgh and rally for Kamala, and they're like, no, please stop, don't. Because he's going to go up on stage and he's going to be like, you know, Donald Trump and everybody who votes for him are losers. And he's going to say something. Yeah, I mean, I really do think he could say something like that. He's going to say you're being duped because you're all losers and you're falling for it. And then they're going to be like, why are you doing this, Joe? You're hurting us. Well, my friends, as I already mentioned, in the battlegrounds, Trump is up in aggregate by 1 point. The only state that Kamala Harris has taken the lead in is Michigan. We'll see. If there is no bias in the polls, meaning they are perfect, Trump wins. If there is a Democrat bias, as there has been in 2016 and 2020, Trump really wins. But we don't know. Things change. Pollsters change. You guys better go out there and vote. Right now in the national polling average, Donald Trump is up 0.4 points, which is kind of insane. If the bias from 2016 and 2020 exists in the same way today, that means Trump is going to win the national popular vote. Even with a 3% advantage from Morning Consult for Kamala Harris, it's her best poll in the past couple of weeks. The bias was between 3 and 5, meaning at worst, Trump would tie if that poll was true. If the bias exists, Trump wins the popular vote. But only, my friends, only if y'all get out there and vote, especially if you're in blue and red states. The swing state voters, you guys know you got to go vote. That's how Trump wins. Winning the Electoral College, that's the bare minimum. If Trump wins the national popular vote, the message is clear to the left. We reject wokeness and your insane ideology. That is a tremendous cultural victory. Now, over at natesilver.net, he's talking about his forecast. And he says, as of yesterday night, it's a week until Election Day, and we're at the point where we may sometimes run both AM and PM model updates. He says, indeed, there was a ton of new state polling this afternoon, but it confirmed the model's previous view of the race. Although there were changes in the individual states, good news for Kamala Harris in Michigan and North Carolina, good news for Trump in Nevada and Georgia, they all basically even out. We could drill down into individual polls. Atlas Intel offset was what was otherwise a pretty good afternoon for Harris. But it's more of a just toss into the average kind of day. I think I have the Atlas Intel polling right here. Trump is winning Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, Wisconsin. Only in North Carolina does Harris have a 0.1% edge. And many are saying Atlas was the most accurate pollster in the past several cycles. This is 8,717 likely voters, a massive polling sample. It's looking very good for Donald Trump, but only if y'all go vote. Now, Trump's saying they're cheating already. There's videos of early mail-in vote centers, mail-in vote on demand in PA being shut down. Fact check me on this one. Look into it. My understanding is that in PA, they don't do early voting. They do on-demand mail voting, which is you go to a center, you can fill out a mail vote and leave it right there and vote. But then it's got to be sent to an actual processing center of some sort. I'm not entirely sure. But there are videos showing police shutting down these locations saying we're not accepting any more voters, and people are getting pissed off. So I can only tell you this, my friends. In Portland, Oregon, with 1 week before Election Day, this is reported by KOIN, Oregonians have already cast their vote, 18% turnout so far. And they say of the ballots received, 23.4 are Democrat, 25.9 were Republican, followed by 21% from independents and 9.8 from unaffiliated. This is largely indicative of a Republican victory in Portland. The time is now. I want you all to imagine Mel Gibson in the film The Patriot, when they're in the final battle and the militia and the troops are breaking ranks, and Mel Gibson grabs that flag and he runs in and he says, hold, and he charges. Everybody starts turning around and running with him. They outmaneuver the British regulars and they win the battle. And also, Mel Gibson defeats Jason Isaacs, who is the evil British officer who killed his children. It's a movie. What can I say? By the way, apparently, British government officials were like, this movie is obscene. The British never killed children and blah, blah, blah. It's a movie. We enjoy it. We're Americans. My point is, now is not the time to break ranks. Now is the time to feel the fire deep inside and yell charge. And all you have to do is get up and go vote. And you should vote now. If you can, vote early. Because you don't want to wait until some shenanigans happens on election day. Now, I'm no fan of voting month. I think we should have a sound election day. But until we get to that position, before we get to that position, we have to win. So right now, if you have not voted, you find out, you Google it, where do you got to go vote, and you go and vote. Because if every Republican in AOC's D+25 district, if every conservative-leaning individual, or at least disaffected liberal, voted, she would lose her election. My friends, AOC only won in the 14th district in New York, which is D+25, with 80,000 votes. She was ahead by about 50,000 from the Republican. It's a district of 775,000 with an estimated 200,000 conservative-leaning voters. If they all just voted, AOC would lose. And you'd have a Republican representing a Democrat district. It can be done, but you have to stand up and you have to charge. Waving that American flag as you do, like Mel Gibson in The Patriot, and all you have to do, it's the easiest thing. You don't got to storm a battlefield. You don't have to run into doom or danger or great risk. You literally got to go to your polling place and go beep or fill out the paper ballot and say Republican. Not every Republican is a good Republican. Please make sure you know who you're voting for. In some local races, you may not want to vote Republican. I don't know. But right now, with Congress at the federal level, the Senate and the presidency, it's clear Republicans need to win as a rebuke of the corruption of the Democratic Party. They have gone nuts. It can be done. And it's you. Each and every one of you, you need to understand that your single vote is the deciding vote. I am not exaggerating. I am not trying to just give you these platitudes and boost morale. I'm telling you literally, your single vote is the deciding vote in this election. You may be saying, Tim, that's hyperbole. This race is so close. Based on the data that we have, it may come down to the wire. It may come down to a recount. If any one of these swing states or congressional districts, and it happened with Lauren Boebert by a few hundred votes, that means you and your single vote is the deciding factor as to whether or not we save this country. I am going to say it again because you need to hear this. We are looking at an election where there's going to be legal challenges. Already they are underway. They're going to scrutinize every single vote. Democrat and Republicans will do it. Any congressional district or any county that may go for Trump or for Kamala even could be within a razor-thin margin, less than 100 ballots. Who knows? If that happens, they will demand recounts, and it will come down to whether or not you and your single vote was cast. I'm not kidding. Lauren Boebert nearly lost in her district. She's moved districts, but understand, it was something like 500 ballots. That's how razor-thin it was. If you sit back and say, what's the point? They win. They will win. And the next thing you know is your children are going to be reading from books that are inappropriate. There are going to be gangs like Tren de Aragua taking over apartment buildings in your neighborhood. And what then? What then? What will you say to your daughter, to your son, or if you don't have kids, to your neighbors, to your parents, to your brothers, to your sisters, to your friends, your family, when these gangs, which have been spreading like wildfire under the Biden administration and Harris administration, what do you say to them when you said, I just didn't feel like voting? That's on you. But if you believe in this country and you believe in what this country stands for, real progress, freedom, liberty, and if you see as I see and would seek as I seek, then I ask you to join me on this 5th of November to have a 5th of November that this country will never forget. Smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. The next segment is coming up at 1 p.m. today. There's a lot going on, my friends. This is the final stretch. We'll see you all in the next segment. Thanks for hanging out.